Welcome back, my dear history lovers, to another incredible journey into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable discoveries. Today, we're diving deep into the remarkable story of one of the most talked about coins in numismatic history, the 1971 Liberty Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin that has stunned collectors and historians alike with its rumored worth of an astonishing $51 million. Imagine that a coin that most people would overlook as an ordinary penny, sitting in your pocket or coin jar, could actually be worth a fortune. It's almost impossible to believe, but this tiny copper coin has earned legendary status among collectors because of the mysterious minting errors, rare variations, and one-of-a-kind mistakes that make it one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered in the United States. So, if you've ever wondered how a single penny could be worth more than a private jet or a luxury mansion, you're about to find out. The story of the 1971 Lincoln penny isn't just about money, it's about history, craftsmanship, and the unexpected beauty of imperfection. It's about how one moment of error at the US Mint could create something so unique that it becomes priceless. From double dies to misstrikes, repunched mint marks to wrong planchets, there are countless possibilities that have led collectors to believe that the 1971 1-cent Liberty penny is one of the greatest hidden gems in American coinage. To understand why this coin is so special, we have to go back in time to 1971, a year of transition, innovation, and subtle change for U.S. coinage. The early 1970s were an important era for the U.S. Mint. After decades of production, minting technology had advanced, but human oversight still played a large role in the creation of coins. Each die had to be prepared by skilled engravers, and mint marks were still being punched manually onto the dies before production began. This meant that every coin had the potential for slight variation, and sometimes, those variations turned into major minting errors that collectors cherish today. The 1971 Lincoln penny continued the long-standing design that began in 1959. On the obverse, or front, we see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, one of America's most admired presidents, designed by Victor David Brenner. This portrait has appeared on the penny since 1909, when the coin was first introduced to celebrate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. The word Liberty sits proudly to the left of Lincoln's profile, while the date 1971 appears to the right, along with a mint mark if it was produced in Denver or San Francisco. Above Lincoln's head, the phrase "I in God We Trust" remains a defining motto of American currency. On the reverse side, from 1959 until 2008, the Lincoln Memorial designed by Frank Gasparo served as a powerful national symbol. The majestic memorial stands in the center of the coin, with United States of America stretching across the top and the Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, just below it. At the bottom, the denomination 1 cent is engraved, making this small coin an iconic piece of American history. Now, what makes the 1971 Lincoln penny different from millions of others? The answer lies in its errors, those rare and fascinating mistakes that turn ordinary coins into priceless treasures. While most 1971 pennies are worth their face value, a few extraordinary examples have been found with unusual and dramatic minting anomalies that have driven collectors wild. Among these, the most famous and valuable error is the double die, an error so visually striking and historically important that it's often considered the holy grail of coin collecting. A double die occurs when the coin die, the engraved metal piece that stamps the coin's design, is impressed twice or more during the creation process, but not in perfect alignment. The result is a noticeable doubling of design elements such as letters, numbers, and sometimes even Lincoln's facial features. The most well-known double-die penny in history is from 1955, where the doubling is so pronounced that it can be seen without a magnifying glass. However, the 1971 Lincoln penny also has its own double-die varieties, some on the obverse, others on the reverse, and certain examples show dramatic doubling on "I in God We Trust," Liberty, and the date 1971. The 1971 double-die penny is particularly rare, and when found in uncirculated or mint state condition, it can be worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But what if one of these double-die 1971 pennies had even more going on, an additional error like a misstrike or a mint mark anomaly? That's when things move from rare to priceless. Another type of error that adds enormous value is the repunched mint mark, or RPM. Back in 1971, mint marks were still applied manually to the dies using a small punch. The D for Denver or the S for San Francisco was hand punched onto each die one at a time. Naturally, mistakes happened. If the punch wasn't perfectly aligned the first time, the engraver would attempt to correct it with a second or even third strike. This created overlapping or shadowed mint marks, which can often be seen with the naked eye. Collectors love these RPM varieties, and some are so distinct that the first impression of the mint mark is visible above, below, or beside the main letter. A 1971 D penny with a clearly doubled or triple D mint mark could easily stand out as one of the rarest examples in the series. Now, imagine if that same coin also had a double die error on the obverse doubling on Liberty and the date, plus a repunched mint mark. That combination would be almost unheard of, and it would immediately capture the attention of collectors and grading companies around the world. Another fascinating type of error that could elevate the value of a 1971 penny is a planchet error. The planchet is the blank metal disc used to strike a coin, and occasionally, the wrong type of planchet is used during production. For example, a penny might be struck on a dime planchet, or a foreign coin blank. This type of mistake creates coins that are the wrong color, size, or weight. Because 1971 was a time when millions of coins were being produced across multiple mints, it's entirely possible that a few planchets from other denominations were accidentally fed into the presses. A 1971 penny struck on a dime planchet would appear smaller and lighter than normal, with a silver-like color instead of the typical reddish copper. This kind of minting mistake is extremely rare and has been known to fetch huge prices at auction. Similarly, a coin struck on an unplated or experimental planchet one missing its copper coating could look unusual enough to become instantly valuable. Collectors have also identified other possible errors on 1971 pennies, including off-center strikes, broad strikes, and clipped planchets. Each of these errors happens during the striking process. An off-center strike occurs when the blank is not perfectly centered under the dies, causing part of the design to be missing. The more off-center the strike while still showing the date, the more valuable the coin becomes. A broad strike, on the other hand, occurs when the coin is struck without a retaining collar, causing it to spread out and appear slightly larger. Clipped planchets happen when part of the blank is cut off before striking, leaving a crescent-shaped missing section on the coin's edge. Then there are die cracks and cuts, both of which result from wear or damage to the dies over time. A die crack appears as a raised line across the coin, often running through the date or design elements. A cut, which is a more dramatic version of a die break, appears when a piece of the die actually breaks off, leaving a blank, raised blob of metal on the coin. These features are considered highly collectible because they provide a snapshot of the minting process gone wrong. Now, imagine a single 1971 D penny that combines several of these errors: a doubled die, a repunched mint mark, an off-center strike, and a die crack all together. That would create an absolute masterpiece of minting rarity. Such a coin would be one of a kind, and in the numismatic world, uniqueness often translates into astronomical value. That's where the $51 million figure comes from, the idea that this coin isn't just rare, it's possibly unique, combining multiple errors and preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition. It's also important to remember the historical significance of the 1971 penny. This coin was struck during the final decade of full copper pennies before the U.S. Mint changed the composition in 1982 to copper-plated zinc. This means every 1971 penny was made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving it not only monetary but also intrinsic metal value. The copper content alone has fascinated collectors, as the cost of copper has risen over time, making pre-1982 pennies more desirable. But beyond metal value, it's the artistry and history that make the 1971 Lincoln penny so beloved. By 1971, the Lincoln cent had already been in production for over 60 years, longer than any other U.S. coin design in continuous use. It had become a national symbol, something every American recognized, touched, and used daily. My dear coins and history lovers, now in the second video we go to another fascinating and exciting journey into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable discoveries. Now, we're going to explore one of the most mysterious, valuable, and intriguing coins ever minted in the United States, the 1976 Liberty Lincoln 1-cent coin. A coin that has astonished collectors around the world with its rumored worth of an unbelievable $46 million. Imagine that a tiny copper penny, something that most people would overlook, sitting quietly in your pocket or at the bottom of a drawer, could actually be worth more than a luxury yacht, a mansion, or even an entire private island. How can that possibly be true? What makes this simple 1-cent coin so valuable, so unique, and so extraordinary that it has captured the imagination of coin collectors and historians alike for decades? The answer lies deep within its fascinating story, a tale of minting errors, historical quirks, and one-of-a-kind mistakes that transformed this humble penny into a true legend. Let's take a step back in time to understand what makes this particular coin so special. The year 1976 was a momentous time for the United States. It was the year of the nation's bicentennial, the 200th anniversary of American independence. Across the country, there was an explosion of patriotic pride, with parades, fireworks, and special commemorative designs being issued by the U.S. Mint to celebrate the occasion. The quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins all received unique bicentennial designs featuring 1776 to 1976 to mark the celebration of America's founding. However, the humble 1-cent coin, the Lincoln penny, did not receive a special design that year. It retained the classic image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Even though it wasn't officially part of the bicentennial coin program, the 1976 Lincoln cent still became a point of fascination because of the minting process during that period. Millions of these pennies were struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, but among them, a few mysterious errors slipped through, mistakes so rare and so striking that they elevated the coin's status to mythical levels in the world of numismatics. To truly understand why the 1976 Lincoln penny could be worth as much as $46 million, we have to look closely at how coins are made and how errors occur. The process of minting a coin involves creating steel dies engraved with the coin's design. These dies are used to strike blank metal discs, known as planchets, under enormous pressure to create the coin's image. Even though this process is done with precision machinery, human oversight was still essential in the 1970s. Mint marks, for example, were punched manually onto the dies at that time, and any small misalignment could lead to major varieties. The 1976 Lincoln penny features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design had been in use since 1909, marking more than 6 decades of continuous history. On the obverse, we see Lincoln's dignified profile facing right, the word liberty to his left, the date 1976 to his right, and the national motto "I in God We Trust" above his head. If minted in Denver, the coin would also include a small D mint mark just below the date. On the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, stands the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of unity, strength, and democracy, surrounded by the inscriptions United States of America and E Pluribus Unum, with the denomination 1 cent boldly below. Now, to the untrained eye, most 1976 pennies look identical. But for collectors, the true magic lies in the rare errors, small imperfections that can turn an everyday coin into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. The most famous and valuable of these are the doubled die errors, repunched mint marks, and planchet mistakes. Let's start with the doubled die error. A doubled die occurs when the die used to strike coins receives more than one impression from the master hub, but the impressions are misaligned. This causes doubling of the design elements, often visible in the letters, numbers, or even Lincoln's face. On a 1976 Lincoln penny, a double die error could appear on the words "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," or even the date 1976. Under magnification, these letters or numbers appear to be shadowed, thickened, or even doubled completely, as if two slightly offset designs were struck one atop the other. One such double die 1976 penny was reportedly discovered, showing dramatic doubling on the obverse lettering, so clear and bold that it was visible without magnification. If such a coin were preserved in mint state condition, untouched, untarnished, and perfectly struck, it could easily fetch an astronomical value. Add to that an additional mint mark error, and suddenly you have a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that could justify a valuation of tens of millions of dollars. Speaking of mint marks, the 1970 60 penny provides another exciting area of interest for collectors: the repunched mint mark, or RPM. During this period, mint marks were still applied manually, meaning the letter D for Denver was physically punched into each die by hand. If the punch was slightly misplaced, the engraver would attempt to correct it by punching again, resulting in a visible double or triple mint mark. Collectors love these variations, and each unique pattern tells a story about the coin's creation. Some RPM varieties from the 1970s showed the D shifted upward, downward, or slightly to one side, creating an unmistakable doubling effect. Imagine discovering a 1970 60 penny where the mint mark shows a clear repunched impression, one D visible on top of another, slightly offset. Now, combine that with a strong double die on the obverse or reverse, and perhaps even a die crack or off-center strike. Suddenly, you have a coin that's not just rare but completely unique. No other coin in existence would share those exact characteristics. And in numismatics, uniqueness often translates into incredible value. Planchet errors are another fascinating category that can add immense worth to a coin. The planchet is the blank metal disc before it's struck, and sometimes errors occur when the wrong planchet is used. For instance, a penny might accidentally be struck on a dime planchet, a foreign coin planchet, or even an unplated zinc disc. The result is a coin that has the wrong size, weight, or color. For the 1976 Lincoln penny, one of the most extraordinary possibilities is a coin struck on a dime planchet. Because dimes are smaller and made from a copper-nickel composition, such a coin would appear silvery in color and slightly smaller in diameter than a normal penny. These wrong planchet errors are extremely rare and always catch the attention of collectors. A 1976 penny with this kind of striking error, especially if it also features a double die or a repunched mint mark, could be valued at millions. Other types of minting errors that can significantly increase a coin's value include off-center strikes, broad strikes, and die breaks. An off-center strike occurs when the coin blank is not properly centered in the press, causing part of the design to be missing. The more off-center it is while still showing the date, the more valuable the coin becomes. Broad strikes happen when the coin is struck without the collar that keeps it in shape, resulting in a stretched, wider appearance. Die breaks, meanwhile, occur when the striking die develops cracks or pieces that break off, leaving raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin's surface. These can form fascinating patterns, sometimes even resembling letters, shapes, or figures. Collectors have even reported 1976 pennies with retained die breaks, meaning part of the die cracked but stayed in place, creating dramatic raised ridges across Lincoln's face or the memorial. These errors are not just rare, they're pieces of minting history frozen in metal. Each one tells a story about the exact conditions under which it was struck, a moment of mechanical failure or human oversight that created something truly one of a kind. Another intriguing aspect of the 1976 penny is its composition. Before 1982, Lincoln cents were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them a rich reddish-brown color and a heavier feel than modern pennies, which are mostly zinc with a thin copper coating. The copper composition adds another layer of desirability to the 1976 penny, as collectors often prefer the pre-1982 coins for their durability and aesthetic appeal. Over time, the value of copper itself has risen, which makes these older coins even more sought after, especially when combined with rare minting errors. Now, let's imagine the perfect storm: a 1976 Lincoln penny struck at the Denver Mint, featuring a dramatic double die on the obverse, a repunched mint mark, and a subtle off-center strike, all preserved in mint state condition. Such a coin could easily be considered a once-in-a-century find. If authenticated by professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC, and confirmed as a genuine multi-error specimen, it could sell for an astronomical price, perhaps even reaching that legendary $46 million figure that has stunned the numismatic world. Why would collectors pay such an extraordinary sum for a penny? My dear friends, now in the third history we go to another exciting and fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable discoveries that continue to amaze collectors all around the world. We're diving deep into the story of one of the most extraordinary coins ever rumored to exist in American numismatic history, the 1978 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a humble penny that, according to experts and collectors, could be worth as much as $41 million. Imagine that for a moment, a single copper penny, something that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground, possibly being worth more than an entire mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, or a lifetime of wealth. It sounds unbelievable, but as we'll discover in this detailed exploration, this coin's incredible story is tied to its rare errors, mysterious minting mistakes, and unique characteristics that have captured the fascination of coin enthusiasts for decades. So sit back and imagine holding in your hand a coin that most people would overlook, a small, unassuming Lincoln cent from 1978 with a Denver Mint mark, and realizing that it could be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery worth tens of millions of dollars. What makes it so valuable? How could a simple penny be worth such an extraordinary amount? The answer lies not only in its rarity, but also in the fascinating world of minting errors, historical quirks, and unique variations that have turned ordinary coins into priceless artifacts of American history. Let's travel back in time to 1978, a year that marked the end of one era and the beginning of another for American coinage. The country was still producing the classic Lincoln Memorial design that had been introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Frank Gasparo, the reverse side of the coin showcased the majestic Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., while the obverse side continued to feature Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Lincoln, a design that had already become an enduring symbol of American coinage since its debut in 1909. At first glance, the 1978 Lincoln penny looks like any other copper coin from the same era. It features the portrait of Lincoln facing right, the word Liberty to the left of his profile, the date 1978 to the right, and the tiny D Mint mark beneath it, indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint. Above Lincoln's head is the national motto, "I in God we trust." On the reverse, the words United States of America arc across the top, E pluribus unum is inscribed above the Lincoln Memorial, and 1 cent is written boldly at the bottom. However, among the billions of Lincoln cents minted in 1978, a handful stand apart, coins that were struck with errors, mistakes, and anomalies that make them incredibly rare and valuable. These minting errors are what have given rise to stories of a single 1978 penny being valued at an astounding $41 million. While such a value may sound unbelievable, the combination of historical intrigue, minting mishaps, and collector demand can sometimes drive the price of a unique specimen into unimaginable territory. To understand why the 1978 penny could be so valuable, we need to look at how coins are made and how errors can occur during the minting process. Each coin begins as a blank disc, called a planchet, which is fed into a coining press where two dies strike it with immense pressure to imprint the design. The obverse die carries Lincoln's portrait, while the reverse die carries the Lincoln Memorial. The mint mark is added to the die before production begins. Any small error during this process, a misaligned die, a doubled design, an incorrect planchet, or a repunched mint mark, can lead to the creation of a coin unlike any other. One of the most famous types of mint errors that can make a coin worth a fortune is the doubled die. This happens when the die itself receives multiple impressions of the coin's design from the master hub, but each impression is slightly misaligned. As a result, the struck coins show visible doubling on certain details, such as the letters, numbers, or even Lincoln's facial features. A doubled die error is not caused by the coin being struck twice, it's actually the die that's misaligned during its preparation. This kind of error has created some of the most legendary coins in history, such as the 1955 doubled die Lincoln cent and the 1969 doubled die obverse, both of which are worth thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars today. Now imagine a 1978 penny showing a strong double die error on the obverse, perhaps doubling on the words Liberty, Indiana God we trust, or the date 1978. Such an error would immediately make it highly collectible. If that coin also happens to be struck on a high-quality planchet, perfectly preserved, and with no circulation wear, its value could skyrocket. Combine that with a rare mint mark variation or another error type, and you have the potential for a truly unique specimen, one that could, under the right circumstances, fetch an astronomical price like $41 million. The Denver Mint, where the D mint mark pennies were struck, has a long history of producing large quantities of coins each year. In 1978, billions of Lincoln cents rolled off the presses at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. But with such massive production comes an increased likelihood of small mistakes slipping through. These can include die cracks, cuds, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and even the occasional coin struck on the wrong metal planchet. Let's take a closer look at some of these error types and how they could apply to the 1978 D penny. A die crack occurs when the die used to strike coins develops a fracture due to stress and repeated use. As the die continues striking coins, the crack leaves a raised line on the surface of the coin where metal has flowed into the damaged area. Sometimes these cracks can form dramatic patterns across Lincoln's face or the reverse design. When the cracked area is large enough that a piece of the die breaks off completely, the resulting coin will have a missing section of design, known as a cud. Both die cracks and cuds can make a coin highly desirable, especially when they are large and visually striking. An off-center strike happens when the planchet is not properly aligned with the dies during striking. The result is a coin with part of the design missing, and an unstruck blank area where the metal never received the die impression. The more off-center the coin is while still showing the full date and mint mark, the rarer and more valuable it becomes. A broad strike is another striking error, occurring when the retaining collar that shapes the coin's rim fails to hold the planchet in place during striking. The result is a coin that appears wider and flatter than normal, with details stretching toward the edges. Then there are wrong planchet errors where a coin is struck on a blank intended for another denomination. For example, if a penny design were accidentally struck on a dime planchet, the resulting coin would appear smaller and have a silvery color due to the different metal composition. These kinds of errors are exceptionally rare, and when authenticated, they can command enormous prices. In the case of the 1978 D Lincoln penny, several known varieties and errors have been documented by collectors over the years. Among them are minor doubled dies, repunched mint marks, and small die cracks. But what if there existed a combination of multiple major errors, a coin with a strong doubled die, a misaligned or repunched mint mark, and an off-center strike, all preserved in near-perfect condition? That kind of coin would be one of a kind, and in the numismatic world, true uniqueness can lead to astronomical valuations. The mint mark itself adds another fascinating layer to this story. In 1978, the Denver Mint was still using the traditional process of manually punching mint marks into each working die. This means that tiny variations could occur from one die to another, and sometimes the mint mark was punched more than once, slightly off from its original position. These repunched mint marks, or RPMs, are among the most beloved varieties among collectors, because they show visible doubling or overlapping of the D. A 1978 D Lincoln penny with a clearly repunched mint mark, perhaps one D showing beneath or beside another, is already a rare find. But imagine combining that with a major double die error and a unique striking issue. It's coins like these that make collectors dream of finding the next big discovery. The condition of a coin also plays a massive role in determining its value. A 1978 D penny found in circulation, showing wear and tear from decades of handling, might only be worth its face value or slightly more if it has a minor error. But a coin that has been perfectly preserved since the day it was minted, showing sharp details, brilliant luster, and no signs of wear, could be graded as mint state by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC. In high grades, even ordinary coins can fetch significant sums, and error coins can reach mind-blowing figures. Collectors and investors alike are drawn to coins like this not only for their monetary value but also for the stories they tell.